بسم الله الحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله. Imam Al-Bukhari's book Al-Adab, Al-Mufrad, and today's hadith is hadith number 470. Abu Hurairah said, the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alayhi wasallam said, beware of avarice. It destroys those before you. It destroyed those before you. They shed each other's blood and cut off their relatives. Injustice will be seen as darkness on the day of rising.
Hadith again, please.
Hadith 470. Abu Hurairah said, the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alayhi wasallam said, beware of avarice. It destroyed those before you. They shed each other's blood and cut off their relatives. Injustice will be seen as darkness on the day of rising.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف المرسلين وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين وعلى من تبع هداهم إلى يوم الدين. Imam Al-Bukhari, under the chapter Al-Rifq, this is all of these hadiths that we've been discussing, is to do with leniency, Al-Rifq, and under which he brings the hadith of Abu Hurairah that the Prophet ﷺ is telling us to be aware of this following bad character, which is Ash-Shuh. Ash-Shuh is extreme stinginess. He called it avarice. I don't know if avarice means extreme stinginess, does it?
Extreme greed.
Yeah. Extreme greed, avarice. Avarice is well stinginess. You know that. Bukhl. But it doesn't give the word shuh. Shuh is the person who is greedy and stingy at the same time. So he's keen to take everything and not to give any. So stingy is that you got something and you don't want to share it. But shuh is like to have the whatever is in the hands of the other people, possess it, and at the same time not to give it back. So it's worse. So I don't know what word would combine such a thing. Is avarice is the right word? I have no idea. So a shuh, and that is why the shuh is dangerous. And it says here, فَإِنَّهُ أَهْلَكَ مَنْ كَانَ قَبْلَكُمْ. It had destroyed the people before you. And it made them to shed the blood of each other. And it made them to sever the kinship ties. And then he said, وَظُلْمُ ظُلُمَاتٍ. And darkness and oppression turn into darkness on the day of resurrection. In the hadith 487, it's the same one. And he adds, وَإِيَّاكُمْ وَالْفُحْشِ. And be aware of bad words. For verily Allah Azza wa Jal does not like the one who is obscene in his lounge. Right. Iyakum wa shuh. Shuh, as I said, it is worse than stinginess. It is stinginess plus you're keen to get what is in their possession, in the hands of other people. And talking about the shuh and avarice, we've talked about it under the hadith 281, and there was there the chapter, it's called chapter of Ash-Shuh. I don't know how long ago, chapter Ash-Shuh, and we discussed under which hadith where it says the Prophet of Allah said, لا يجتمع الشح والإيمان في قلب عبد أبدا. It will never be combined together, these two things in the heart of a believer, avarice, shuh, or the extreme stinginess, with the iman. One of them is to expel the other. So لا يجتمع الشح والإيمان في قلب عبد مؤمن. When the person becomes a believer, straight away he would love for his brother what he loves for himself from the good. He will not be stingy, and he will not be self-centered, and he will not be, for example, preventing people's rights, and he will not be a person who will be not helping. And this shuh, Prophet ﷺ, he made it from the signs of the day of resurrection. Prophet of Allah, he said, يَتَقَارَبُ الزَّمَانِ, that the time will get closer to each other, meaning the time will be shrinking. So whatever you find from the year has become a month. The month becomes a week, and the week becomes a day, and the day becomes 1 hour, and the hour becomes like a click. All of that from the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ. Now, in terms of realistic time, it hasn't happened yet. But in terms of barakah, we have noticed that. That is the time that shrink. Whatever the year hardly passed, and the following year comes in. Ramadan is not really, we're going towards Ramadan. Ramadan is running towards us. It's coming like us, in opposite direction to us. And it's so fast. In about less than 5 months, you're going to be having Ramadan. Believe it or not. 4 months. Even less than that. You can have Ramadan. We hardly finished Ramadan. There is another Ramadan. That's the shrink. And then the Prophet ﷺ, he said, قال ويلقى الشح. In that hadith, he said, يتقارب الزمان. قال ويلقى الشح. And the shuh will appear, will become prevalent. And the shuh here, it is not the shuh on individual basis. The shuh which is a phenomena that will take place. The shuh, and it's not stinginess when people think stinginess to do with money or property. Stinginess in everything. Stinginess here, that means in even that the teacher will not give the teaching. The mufti will not even give fatwa. The person who is good and skillful in his work, he will not help the others. That's the stinginess. Can you brothers come forward, please? In my class, Akeem, really very important. Fill up the gaps, please, brother. Everybody, fill up the gaps. Don't leave gaps. Very important. Always fill up the gaps. So you find that the person who is a worker, he will be stingy to teach others his work. So this stinginess, it will come in a time which is as well closer to from the signs of the day of resurrection, and it will be a destructive point, because when the person does not give what he's supposed to give, that's very bad. Allah says, إِنَّ الْإِنسَانَ خُلِقَ هَلُوعًا in Surah Al-Ma'arij, إِذَا مَسَّهُ الشَّرُّ جَزُوعًا وَإِذَا مَسَّهُ الْخَيْرُ مَنُوعًا. Allah created a human being to be halu'. What is halu'? Halu' means that if good touches him, he will be stingy, he will not give it. And if evil touches him, he will act cowardly. Cowardness and stinginess, cowardness and avarice is the worst of characteristics that the human being can have. Prophet Allah, he said, شَرُّ مَا فِي الرَّجُلِ, the worst character in a man, that means a man or a woman, شُحٌّ هَالِعٌ وَجُبْنٌ خَالِعٌ. شُحٌّ هَالِعٌ, shuh, which is extreme stinginess that makes the person so worried to give anything to anybody. It will prevent his help to reach anybody. If he's got something that is, he could share it, he will not share it. وَجُبْنٌ خَالِعٌ, and cowardness to the extent that he will be terrified and be scared from everything. When the person becomes shahih, the shuh, this shuh will lead to other bad characteristics. Number one, extreme keenness, that you like to have everything. Number two, sharah, greediness, to be greedy, you'll not be being satisfied. And it will lead as well to su'u dhann, which is bad opinion. When you have bad opinion, number one, in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Because when you have stinginess, I mean, you're scared that you're going to left with nothing. And that is why you have su'u dhann, a bad opinion, Allah will not give you rizq. And that's how it's bad. So the stinginess lead even to kufr, wal-'iyadhu billah. Because you are thinking bad about Allah Azza wa Jalla, that He will not provide you. You think that the dunya is going to save you, not Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And also it will lead to prevent the rights of the other people. All of those bad characteristics had emerged from this called ash-shuh. So, شَرُّ مَا فِي الرَّجُلِ شُحٌّ هَالِعٌ وَجُبْنٌ خَالِعٌ. The worst of a man, or worst of a character in a man, is to have extreme stinginess and extreme cowardness. So remember that the person, when he is stingy, he will be very hard for him to let go of what he likes. So if it is the money, it's very hard for him to let go of that money because he's stingy. He loves it so much. He doesn't want to share it to anybody. He doesn't want to share it with anybody. That's the stingy person. Wal-'iyadhu billah. So the stingy person, he will be as well, doesn't care about his brothers. He will not love for his brothers what he loved for himself. Then he ended up saying, وَالظُّلْمُ ظُلُمَاتٌ, and then the dhulm, which is injustice. Whether it's injustice towards your Lord, injustice towards yourself, or injustice to ones who are around you. And it will turn onto darkness on the day of resurrection, into agonization on the day of resurrection. And then he says, وَيَكُمْ وَالْفُحْشِ. Be aware to be bad language. People, the bad language, وَالْعِيَاذُ بِاللَّهِ, is on their tongue all the time. So that bad language, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala doesn't like it. Don't really use the bad language. And the mutafahish is the one who is deliberately using that word. Some people that it will become a slip on his tongue. That's bad. But some of the people that is really, he is deliberately, he is gathering himself to do that. One of the people which I met recently, and he was amongst, mashallah, good brothers, and he was working in one of these restaurants. And as soon as he was talking to me, that bad word came out of his mouth. And I said, excuse me, that's not right. He said, I've been living in this country, and he's a person, he's not an Englishman. I've been raised in this country, and that's why I can't give up. I can't help it to use that word. I said, you should really help yourself and do it. And you should really restrict yourself from doing that. You should fine yourself every time that you make, okay? So you could just say that I'm going to give £5 sadaqah every time a word comes out of my mouth like that. But this person didn't last a week in that place because the brothers are very strict regarding this issue. The person who was in charge, he said to me that guy came to him and he said to him, I'm about to explode. I want to swear. I can't stay without swearing. So these people, as I said, swearing became like their business. Right, what is the link between this hadith and the chapter title, which is Al-Rifq? What is the link? Anybody? Okay. The link is basically simple, that the rifq, the leniency, will never lead to such bad characteristics. Those characteristics, because you don't have the leniency, you don't have the rifq. So this extreme stinginess had destroyed the people before us, made them to shed blood and to sever their kinship. And the Prophet ﷺ, when he said in that hadith that on the day of resurrection, or close to the day of resurrection, the time will shrink, and then he says also the stinginess will come out and be prevalent, and then on top of that, the knowledge will decrease. And when the knowledge, which is the knowledge of the deen, decreases, that in the opposite will increase is the ignorance. And when you have ignorance and lack of knowledge, you have fitan. And what is fitan? Tribulation. Tribulation will lead, Prophet Allah said, al-harj. Messenger of Allah, what is al-harj? He said, al-qatl, al-qatl. Killing. Look, from lack of leniency, what we have ended up. The leniency is the opposite of the shuh. Because the person, when he is lenient, then he will be, mashallah. The leniency also is good. We have said, if you remember, the last hadith, which was with Aisha, the leniency is good with what? With the animals. Because she had an animal and he was stubborn, and she gave him a kick. Remember, she had beaten him up. And the Prophet ﷺ, he said to her, alayki bil rifq, hold on to rifq, O Aisha. For very rifq, whenever it is there, it will beautify. Remember? And whenever rifq is being taken away, it will make it bad. So the rifq, so Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala makes it the key for success. Coming to the following hadith. Chapter
218. Moderation in livelihood. Hadith 471. Kathir bin Ubaid said, I called on Aisha, the al-Mu'mineen, may Allah be pleased with her. She said, wait until I mend my garment. So I waited, and I said, if I go out and tell people about this, they will regard it as an act of miserliness on your part. She said, mind your own business. There are no new clothes for the one who does not wear shabby clothes as well.
Shabby?
Shabby.
Shabby clothes, yeah, old clothes. Right, the title is, or the chapter title, Al-Rifq, again, But you did not read, said leniency. You said what?
Moderation.
Moderation. Because I don't want you to understand now that the word is being different from the word which is from the previous chapter. Previous chapter was rifq. And now this one is a rifq fil ma'isha. But I can't, when you say leniency in livelihood, it's not going to be understood, is it? Leniency in livelihood. Leniency is for human being. So he said moderation, which is a good translation, moderation. الرفق في المعيشة. You have to be rafiq as well. That means when you're spending your money, when you are clothing yourself, you are moderate. You're not extreme in stinginess and you're not extreme in extravagance. You are in between. So you are using your money for feeding yourself and feeding your family in a way which is moderate. So you're not stingy, holding back, and you're not widely open, that is extravagant. Then he mentions a hadith here from Kathir ibn Ubayd. Kathir ibn Ubayd is important to know the link and the relationship between him and Aisha radiallahu anha. Kathir ibn Ubayd, he is the free slave of Abu Bakr, the father of Aisha. And not only that, he was her brother through suckling. So he is her brother through suckling. So he was, number one, that is a free slave of Abu Bakr. Number two, that he is the brother of Aisha through suckling. That means both of them, they had one mother in terms of giving milk. Now he says that I have entered upon Aisha. That will explain to you that if he's a man, how can he enter upon Aisha? He's her brother. He said the mother of the believers and all the wives of the Prophet of Allah to be mothers of the believers. May Allah be pleased with her. So she said, Amsik hatta akhita nuqbati. Hold, help me to hold this. Nuqba here is the sirwal. Sirwal means sirwal qamis, sirwal. For the women, sirwal. Hold that sirwal so I could really make stitch it because it was broken. And by the way, in Arabic, we have words to explain each type of sirwal, which for you is just only a garment or a trouser. But the sirwal, if it's got, for example, like a stitch, the one that you really expand, what do you call it? Elastic thing in the middle. That is different from the one who hasn't got elastic. So each one has got a name for it in Arabic. So we have, for example, al-nayfaq, and we have al-hujza, and we have this one which is al-nuqbah. 3 words explaining. So al-nuqbah is basically a sarwal which is like an izar, nuqbah, or sarwal that hasn't got a place where the elastic goes into it. So she's trying to fix it. So I held, and then I said, Ya al-Mu'mineen, O mother of the believers. This is the way of speaking to a person in a way which has got leniency in it and respect. So, subhanallah. So he's calling her in a way which is nice. قال يا al-Mu'mineen. Very good name. Aisha, she radiallahu anha, she likes it. So we call it here being polite, being lenient in calling her. And he had chosen the best of nicknames for Aisha. O mother of the believers. So when you call somebody, you call him with a name which is favorite to him. Then he will give you what you want from him. She said, if I go out and I tell the people what I've been doing, that means I've been holding for you this sarwal for you to go and stitch it. لَعَدُّوهُ مِنْكِ بُخْلًا. They would have considered this to be stinginess or miserliness. Okay, stinginess. So that means you are not rafiqa in the ma'i, you are not moderate in your, you are stingy, basically. You're not a person who's a... So she said, Absar sha'nak. In another narration, da'ank, leave. I mean, why do you focus on these issues? Da'ank, Absar sha'nak. Keep to your business. Yes, good as well translation. Keep to your business. Or, Absar sha'nak. There was a brother here with the glasses used to come here. Where is he? You okay?
Kauthar, this one?
No. Other one, big one. You know him.
Yeah.
Part of this masjid. Where is he gone? Oh, there he is. You've changed your glasses?
No, it's still the same one.
Yeah. Right. Have a haircut, that's why. Right. So, if I tell the people what I've done, what you've been doing, and I would say this is stinginess because, you've got enough money. We have another narrations that Aisha radiallahu anha, one day she has given a lot of money in charity. Lots of money. And then she started now stitching a khimar, which is a covering for the head. So we said to her, mother of the believer, you have given charity lots of money. Then after that you're giving a patch, to your khimar, stitching that, closing that hole with a patch. So she said exactly what she had said here to that person. إِنَّهُ لَا جَدِيدَ لِمَنْ لَا يَلْبِسُ الْخَلَقِ. No way that you're going to feel that you have put something new until you put something which is shabby. Something which is old. If you don't put that old, how could you put all the time new? You understand me? I remember a person is always, have a new car. So that car does not last 1 year. He has to renew it, the new. So now he's got 2017. So when 2018 comes, he will have the 2018. Okay, just like that. And it became like a habit. So when he puts a new car, it's for us, it's not a new car. Because the one he got rid of is a new car as well. You didn't understand me? So he's not really putting a new car because it's for us, it's not really anymore. Because the difference between the shape and the shape, because the facelift, it's not really that much. Okay, not much. Same thing with putting clothes here. You're putting all the time new. How can I know that it's a new? I will not even give you the dua. You have put a new thing because you always are new. So you have to put something old in order to have the new. So she had actually given him a poetry when that person told her, why you are patching and stitching your burqa and you have, which is your khimar, yet you are giving a lot of money for sadaqah. She said, you put on your clothes, a new one, for I'm going to put my shabby clothes. And there is no new except if you put something which is old. I like that. There is no something new until you put something what? Oh, how can you have new and everything is new? But at the same time, I want you to understand that the person, he has to be moderate. Meaning, it's not good to put all the time shabby clothes and he's got what? Good clothes. That's the other extreme from the other side. Prophet of Allah, he saw a person. He's got a bad garment. Not really right. Do you have another one? You have another one? He said, yes, Messenger of Allah. Which type? He said, from the good one. So verily Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he likes to see the trace of his ni'mah, of his blessings upon his slave. Do you understand that? So why you keep putting this old? Why? Why? So if Allah Azza wa Jalla had blessed you with something, and Allah wants to see that as well onto you. إِنَّ اللَّهَ يُحِبُّ أَنْ يَرَى أَثَرَ نِعْمَتَهُ عَلَى عَبْدِ. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants to see the trace of his blessings on top of his slave. Prophet of Allah, somebody came to the Messenger of Allah. إِنِّي أَتَجَمَّلُ بِجِلَالِ صَوْتِي. I beautify myself with the belt of his, the clothes of his, the shoes of his. Is that from the kibr? Is that from the pride? He said, no. Inna Allah jamilun yuhibbul jamal. Allah is beautiful, he loves beauty. So that is as well, keep that in mind. So the person is moderate in the same, moderate as in not extreme, and not as well going to the other extreme. So when a person is putting always bad clothes, that's stinginess as well, isn't it? Because you're stingy, you don't want to spend anything on your money, on yourself. So Aisha, she says that to him, keep to your business. I mean, these things you should not really pinpoint. And I'm telling you, I'm using this as well, I'm going to as well, using this to tell if this sister's listening, that it's to as well to be aware that you should not be as well focusing on, you can't go, my dear husband, except that if your clothes are really ironed. Some of them have been prevented to go until everything's been ironed, even under his underwear. So this is extra usage for what? For electricity. Why is that? Why? So if the person is always iron, the people will not even pay attention to him. Whoever's using the iron. So if you go once with crease close, and then iron, do you notice the difference? But some of the women, they don't let go to their husband, because it's not because they're scared on their husband, they're scared on themselves, because the people say, she's got a bad wife, that's men looking after her. It's her reputation she's after. Some of them, mashallah, they like their husband. But I'm just saying, extremism, going overboard with these issues is not good as well. Going now to the following hadith. Chapter title.
Chapter 219. What the slave is given for gentleness. Hadith 472.
Now, rifq has been not leniency, now is what?
Gentleness.
Gentleness, another word for it. Go ahead.
Hadith 472. Abdullah bin Mughaffal said, the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, Allah is gentle and He loves gentleness. One is given for gentleness what He is not given for harshness.
Right. Allah is gentle, lenient, and He loves gentleness, leniency. And He gives on leniency and gentleness what He does not give on harshness. Is that harshness you said? Yeah, that's a good translation. Right, okay. So, Inna Allah rafiq. Verily Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is rafiq. Gentle. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is gentle. And from the gentleness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, which is the tolerance and the forgiveness, that He does not punish the sinner straight away. He gives him time to what? To repent. That's from the gentleness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. If somebody kept swearing at you all the time, would you be gentle enough to be patient, not to punch him in his face? Or knock his teeth down? Because he keeps swearing at you. Those people who say that Allah has got a son, Allah has got a daughter, they're swearing at Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Yet Allah is not really actually damaging themselves, damaging or destroying them. He's actually giving them more. He gave them cars and lives, and yet they are saying, God, you got a wife. Oh God, you don't exist. Allah's given them. So that's the key for that as well, the patience. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the most patient, subhanahu wa ta'ala. And He said, He will give on gentleness, He will not give on to harshness. That means on gentleness, you will be given, not just on the day of resurrection from the reward, in the dunya, that you will achieve through the gentleness what you're not going to achieve through harshness. So if you have two ways to fix something, one which is harshness and one which is gentleness, then gentleness you might achieve lots of things, don't know what, the harshness. But sometimes shiddah, which is being strong in your tone, is sometimes from the gentleness. Okay? Because the gentleness as well needs something as well. I would say harshness, but you would say, but for example, a robust person. You're treating the matter robustly. That is gentleness as well. So when the Prophet of Allah ﷺ, he talked to that man whom had dressed up with brocaded garment, and he was pointing to the Prophet of Allah. He said, this man of yours, he wants to put the noble man down and the coward up. So he pulled him. And he said, I could see that you dressed up of a person who's got no common sense. That is really harshness, isn't it? But that harshness is gentleness. I wouldn't say harshness, I would say firmness. You treated him the way you got the clothes of somebody who's got no brains. That's what you are. So the Prophet of Allah, he was strong in that, but that is gentleness, because that person maybe will stop him from saying what he's saying. So the gentleness is basically you trying to achieve. So if you think gentleness is to be with, as well, strong words that would stop what he's doing from the haram or whatever, then do it. No problem. Prophet of Allah, he did it. He said to that man who said, Ma sha'Allahu wa shi't, aja'altani lillahi nidda. If Allah wills and you will, Messenger of Allah said, are you trying to make me a rival with Allah? A deity next to Allah? If I will, and if Allah will? No, if Allah wills on His own. So he said, aja'altani lillahi nidda. No matter how gentle you're going to say these words, they're not going to come gentle. Aja'altani lillahi nidda. Doesn't work in Arabic. It means, did you make me equal to God? No, it doesn't work. Did you make me equal to God? That's how it is. That's gentleness as well. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives on the gentleness from the barakah. So the person, he should be all the time having an account on himself. Am I gentle or am I not? And I'm doing that to myself as well. Myself, sometimes, I feel that I made a mistake. But I thought I did the right thing, which is good. One day, and I'm going to give you two scenarios, happened very recently. Not more than 3 weeks ago, I came to a restaurant. Shows you how much food I eat in restaurants all the time. So I went inside in that restaurant and I found, which is now the brothers, they're Muslims, mashallah. One of them is a new one. And he's got a beard, he's got a chain on his neck, and he's got a stud, earring. Okay, so I said, and then the brother who is Algerian, he says to me, we've got a new worker, and he's from the same country of yours. That's when I couldn't really hold myself. If it's Pakistani, Bangladeshi, I will be gentle. But when he says from my country, I couldn't hold myself. I said, you are Jordanian? I said, yes. And you're putting this? He said, yes. And he says to me, what's wrong with it? No, hang on a second. I made my research. It's no problem, partner. You made your research. Well, you didn't make research enough. If you come to my country, we're going to let you like this. We're going to beat you up. It's not enough research, is it? We will beat you up, I said to him. If you come to my country with this, we will beat you up. You know that. And hasn't been raised in this country, by the way. You are shame for me. This man said, look, it's from your country. So as I came in, it's a shame for me. You are shame for me. How can it be? He said, Shufi. I said, A'udhu Billah. Allah's messenger, he said, may Allah curse the men who's imitating the women. And you are imitating the women. What do you say? What is wrong with this? Anyway, he was really upset and he went inside the kitchen and didn't come out. He didn't come out. I had my food for half an hour, he did not come out. But I was really upset. Now, before I came, he came out. But the Algerian guy said to me, maybe Sheikh, you were a bit harsh on him. I said, maybe, but I couldn't hold myself. What are you doing to him? He said, well, we're giving him dawah, but if he's not going to listen, we're going to use the sword. It's a joke, of course. You see, leniency. Well, if it doesn't work, he's going to use his sword. Because Algerians are very tough. MashaAllah. So I left, and he was upset, that guy. Hopefully, inshallah, maybe those words give him a shake. You don't know. Later on, we'll give him a shake later on. Then in comparison with what happened yesterday. Yesterday, I was again in a restaurant. I had some brothers in Aylesbury. Came to inside this, and there were brothers. They are from Pakistan. MashaAllah, all of them got beard and they got a topi like this. But it is actually topi which is Islamic and also for their restaurant. It's a special one with a color. And they got franchise for, and I'm not going to say the, because I don't want you to know. Then I was talking to there were three brothers, mashallah, beard. They look very nice. And one of them, mashallah, looks with the beard. And I really liked him. He's got glasses, beards, mashallah. And I was asking him, and when I was talking to him, I came to the side and I saw, stud. I could not believe it. Inside me, I was so shocked. His face is glowing light. So I said, brother, do you pray? Because I want to know. He said, Alhamdulillah. I said, don't you know that this is haram? This is between me and him. Don't you know this is haram? Allah, your face doesn't really suit this. You got lots of iman. It doesn't work with this. Oh, Allah. I don't know what I said. Some words. But they were touching his heart. I had some meal and I finished. Before I finished my meal, I looked. He's not there. Wallahi. Then I went inside to wash my hands. And they were on my own with him. I said to him, you just took it up, Jazakallah khairan. He said, I'm not going to come back to it again. Wallahi, I hugged him. Wallahi, I hugged him. I said, I'm not going to come back to it again. It reminded me the leniency of one of the scholars of the shuyukh that came to this country. And I'm not going to mention his name because there's a question marks about that person now. But he is a scholar, basically. And when he came, there was a person who came to the conference. I'm talking about back in the 1990s. All right? So he came to the conference for the first time. I remember his name even, Ali. And he had not a stud here, he had a pin there. And a pin like this. And he came to the conference. And I don't know, I didn't like him. I brought him to the flat, which is only for the shuyukh. It's not allowed for anybody to come in. But I brought him along. And I said to the sheikh to talk to him. So he's talking to him in Arabic and I'm translating. And the sheikh did not have anything on his face except for a smile. Like this. And that person comes, he traces himself to the Arabs as well. But he's been here for a long time. Maybe born here as well. You call it born and bred, huh? And then I said, Sheikh, are you going to talk about this issue on him? He says to him, no, I don't need to talk about this. MashaAllah, this person on his own is going to take it out. I don't think I'm going to talk about it. And I'm pressing to him. This man it doesn't really, does not really match this with that. I'm not going to talk about it. He is, MashaAllah, tabarakallah. I could see that. This person is a sheikh, by the way. That person who's got that thing, he is a sheikh. From those words. Straight away, the following day, took it off. Straight away, he is reading Quran and Sunnah. MashaAllah. I don't know what he is at the moment, but subhanAllah, it's just one word. The key is one word to the heart. What is that? Leniency. I'm really dying to go to the other guy who was from my country. I'll apologize to him. Okay, right. Somebody dances there? Jazakallah khair. Okay, going to Hadeeth 200, chapter 220.
Chapter 220. Calming people. Hadeeth 473.
And before you go that, I would like to add a story. Because Allah gives to the rifq more than He gives to the harshness. Yes? I want to add a story documented as well from Sheikh Abdul Rahman ibn Nasr al-Sa'di, the author of Tafsir al-Kareem, which is an interpretation. We call it Tafsir al-Sa'di. Very good tafsir, the Quran. It was documented from him authentically. He was passing by a person. And that person, he was mistreating his donkey. He's beating him up because he's not going with him. Move, he doesn't want to move. So he's beating him up. So the Sheikh passed by him and said, Rifq, you have to be lenient with the donkey, with the animal. So the man, he says, no, Sheikh, he doesn't listen. We've been lenient with him, he does not listen. And we've been harsh with him, does not listen. It's only beat up. We'll work with him. He said, no, that's not right. You should be lenient with him properly. He said, no, he does not work with him. He said, no leniency. Allah gives to the leniency more than He gives to the harshness. So the Sheikh went to the donkey, took the tether of the donkey, and pulled him, and he went with the Sheikh. The man, he said, Wallahi, even the donkey knows that you're a sheikh. That's not a joke. Right, go ahead. At-Taskeen, chapter 220. Now.
Chapter 220, Calming people. Hadith 473. Anas bin Malik said, the Prophet ﷺ said, make things easy and do not make them difficult. Calm people down and do not alarm them.
Right. Can I have some pencil, please? Well, maybe I've got something. Yeah. Man, I've got my pencil, but I lost the head of it. Yes, I've got it. I'm just putting the story of Rahman, just came to my mind here. Adding it here. Right, okay. The Taskeen chapter, which is calmness. Calmness means not just calling to calmness. It's actually calmness in yourself and calling to calmness. Sakina, as-sakina from sakan, tranquility. So you are tranquil and calm in yourself and also calling to calmness. So both is to be in the meaning, not just calling to calmness. Prophet ﷺ, he said, يَسِّرُوا وَلَا تُعَسِّرُوا سَكِّنُوا وَلَا تُنَفِّرُوا. يَسِّرُوا means make things easy. وَلَا تُعَسِّرُوا, don't make things hard. وَسَكِّنُوا, make people as well to be calm. And لَا تُنَفِّرُوا, don't make people to go away from you, which is the opposite. Now this hadith was mentioned in a number of ways. We find it, for example, in the hadith regarding the man who urinated in the masjid. While he was urinating in the masjid, imagine somebody's going to come to the masjid, urinate there. Somebody's going to go beat him up. The same thing the companion had done. They just went and told him, up. He's not listening to them. Stop. He's not listening. So they went, they're going to beat him up. Show him, teach him a lesson. How dare you urinate in our masjid? But he's a Bedouin man, he doesn't know. For him, masjid or not masjid is the same. Urinates everywhere. He's a Bedouin man. So he is now doing it. And he saw these people coming towards him, going to knock him down. And Prophet of Allah, he told them off. Don't. He said, قال لا تزرموا. Don't stop him. Don't cut off his urination. Because when you are urinating and somebody tells you off, to close the tap is going to be very difficult. And it will cause damage as well. You ask the doctors will tell you it's not right. So when the tap is open, let it open. Don't cut it up. Let him urinate. Then after he told them off, he said to them, إِنَّمَا بُعِثْتُمْ مُيَسِّرِينَ. You've been sent, you the companions sent by Allah, you are the ministers of me, to be making things easy upon the people. That means this is not from the easiness. You're not being sent to be making things difficult to the people. That means to stop the people from this, that is already there, urinating. That's making it difficult to the person. Let him finish and then we'll teach him. And then he says, after that, well, إِنَّمَا بُعِثْتُ لَمْ تُبْعَثُوا مُعَسِّرِينَ. Then the man, when he saw this from the Prophet of Allah, and how with one word, this man, he doesn't know him, that he stopped all these people not to beat him up. Okay? And he told them off. And then he said to them, verily, it's enough just to put a bucket of water on it. That's it. So why is that fuss and why is that really all shouting and you want to beat him up? One day I was in a masjid. Somebody had parked his car inconsiderately, because they do that, Muslims. You know? Like somebody sent me a picture. I want to share it with you. It's really, really good picture of what is happening these days. So let me just came to my mind now. Bismillah. WhatsApp images. Right. Okay. Religious. Fun. Right. SubhanAllah. I was looking at it today, and when I want it, it just disappears. Hang on a second. It's actually what it is. What it is actually. Yeah, come on. Right, it's not there. I can't find it. It's a picture of masjid where the people are lining up for the prayer, and all of a straight line. And the picture is taking a picture from the outside of the masjid, how their cars is like all over the place. That's really good. How they lined up in a system in the masjid, mashallah, but outside the cars are like this. They're not lined up. So this person, he blocks somebody's entrance. This person, after the Jum'ah, he comes in. That was the khatib. When he came in with his shoes. He's in kafir man, he doesn't know. As soon as he came in, he wants to complain about the car. He put his shoe, he almost had been beaten up by the people. One person shouted, how can you come with your shoes? What is a blasphemy, ya akhi? Kufr to come with your shoes on the carpet? If somebody came with his shoe on the carpet, what is it with a child? They're going to beat up the child as well? Who said that the shoes cannot go on a carpet? What is a holy carpet here? And people are simple-minded, ya akhi. No knowledge. Prophet of Allah used to pray with what? With shoes. Yes, the carpet will have stains, but simple. Let the man come in. Which is better? To give him dawah and then wash up the carpet if there's a stain there? Okay? Or to give him a shock. It's a shock. The man is, didn't know what to do. I said to the priest, calm down here, calm down. Nothing, the man came with shoes, he doesn't know. We should be really the ones who have been doing it wrong. We should be apologizing to him that somebody had blocked his entrance or whatever, his driveway. So I don't understand why we're not lenient with these people. These people are ignorant. Because ignorant is different from that man who was saying that I made a research, I made it halal. It's different. You know, the one who's got to start is different. I made my research, mashallah. What was research? But this person, he doesn't know Deen, doesn't know Islam. I have to be lenient with the man. So the Prophet ﷺ, when he did this, straight away the man, he said, and he raised up his hand to Allah. That means he knows Allah. He's a believer somehow. Oh Lord, have mercy upon me and Muhammad. Don't have mercy upon anybody else. He doesn't like those people who came to him, he's going to beat him up. So the Prophet smiled just like he smiled now. He said, you have made the rahmah of Allah, the mercy of Allah limited. Huh? Just restricted. No, the rahmah of Allah will encompass everybody. So also the Prophet of Allah, when he sent Mu'adh ibn Jabal and Abu Musa al-Ash'ari, both of them, he sent them to where? To Yemen. He gave them a counseling, recommendation. قال تطاوعا ولا تختلفا. Always always obey one another. Don't differ from one another. So you have to iron your differences. That's basically what it means. Some people have to sacrifice and compromise. Then he said, يَسِّرَا وَلَا تُعَسِّرَا. Make things easy. Don't make things difficult. You're going to Yemen. بَشِّرَا وَلَا تُنَفِّرَا. Give a glad tiding. Don't make the people run away from your da'wah. So give a glad tiding. So the glad tiding, bashir, tabshir, that's your da'wah. A missionary, Islamic missionary, make tabshir. Don't tanafir makes people harsh. And from the harshness of the da'wah, some people, their da'wah is, don't listen to this. The man doesn't know anything. Don't listen to him. Don't listen to him. What did he learn, brother, from the culture? I learned that I don't listen to that guy. Listen to that guy. Don't 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 listen to that guy. Is that what you learned? MashaAllah. What sort of heart is going to have that person? Harsh heart. Harshness. He hasn't learned. Is this a rifq, ya akhi? Did the Prophet of Allah, as soon as the man comes to him, don't listen to Abu Sufyan. When he was a kafir, don't listen. Subhanallah. Teach the people the tabshir. What is the haqq? When they know the haqq, what we call it automatically, they will know the batil. Tell them the haqq. But keep batil. What is the haqq he's learning? He's learning to avoid the batil, but he can't go to the haqq. Point out the haqq for him. Bashira wa la tunaffira. Here he says, وَسَكِّنُوا وَلَا تُنَفِّرُوا. Taskin means tranquility, which is the opposite, which is the equalization of taysir. Making things easy, it makes your people calm. وَلَا تُنَفِّرُوا. Don't make people to go away. What is that he said in the translation? The last word?
Calm people down and do not alarm them.
Alarm them. Is that alarm that means to keep the people away?
Like don't shock them.
Yeah, shock them.
Don't worry.
But he's not really giving me the meaning I want.
Don't chase them away. Run them away.
Run them away. Yeah. You know when you a person give words and da'wah in a way that the people, will leave you. Prophet Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he says to the Prophet Muhammad, وَلَوْ كُنْتَ فَضًّا غَلِيظَ الْقَلْبِ لَنْفَضُّوا مِنْ حَوْلِكَ. If you're to be a person harsh heart, or heart which is harsh. And that words which are harsh, then the people will leave. Even if you're a prophet, people will leave you. So there's hard heart, and which result in what? Harsh words. فَضًّا with your mouth. غليظ القلب, hard. Very stiff in the heart. Harshness of the heart. قلب قاسي, just like a rock. No one should believe in you. I want to have mercy upon them. I want to call them to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So imagine somebody goes gives a da'wah on the person. Brother, you drunk, Allah will put you to the hellfire. You're going to rot there forever. Why are you really drinking alcohol? You shame on yourself. Is this a man who's going to be in a da'wah to him? Wallahi, it's not a da'wah. This man, he needs somebody. I don't think he's drinking alcohol to get closer to Allah, is he? This harshness, you could use it to a person who's mubtada', sahib bid'ah. He's doing it, he knows, I'm getting closer to Allah by shaking my head. But this person is not seeking the closer to Allah by drinking alcohol. He's a sinner. This woman who is, for example, naked, right? So, what way I'm going to call her to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? Now, naked is all over the place, isn't it? So I'm going to call it the way which is to call her. Make sure that you call her that you got somebody with you, brothers. You don't call her on your own. Shaitan is there. And while you're calling her, he's calling you to the fahisha. There's two calls here. You're calling her to the haqq, and Shaitan is calling you, get closer. Get closer. So be careful. I'm giving her da'wah. She needs da'wah. Be careful, brother. This happens, you see, brothers that do that. I've seen them in the university. Right. Sakinu. We have done. Now we go to the hadith, which is what? 474. 474 is unauthentic. Go to 221, chapter Al-Humq. Last one.
Chapter 221. Roughness. Hadith 475. Aisha said, I was on a camel that was somewhat troublesome.
We've done that, haven't we? Yes, which is 469. Yes?
Yeah.
469. Okay, so what was the chapter title? Chapter title? 2221, I'm saying.
Oh, sorry. Roughness.
Roughness. Which is the opposite of what? Rifq. Okay, the opposite of the rifq. We've talked about it because we said she had beaten up the animal. Yes? Okay, 476 is unauthentic. 477 is equal to 787. It will be repeated, and 1266. So 477 is going to be repeated in 787 and 1266. So let's explain it now. Al-Bara ibn Azib.
477. Al-Bara bin Azib said, the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alayhi wasallam said, ingratitude is evil.
Ingratitude, al-ashara. No, it's not ingratitude. Al-ashara means al-abath. Al-abath means being extravagant. It means that you are not balanced. It means you are doing something which is not the right way. Abath, ya'bath. So I don't know what is a word for that. Al-abath. So you said, what did you say? Ingratitude, no. Al-asharatu shar. Al-asharatu al-abath. So when the person, which is linked to the title, which is that the person when he is rifq, he will be balanced in the way that he spends money. Remember? This is now the opposite, which is the opposite of rifq. Toughness, harshness. From that, also not being balanced in the way that you are spending your money. It's called abath. You are ya'bath. You are wasting your time. So it's not any gratitude at all. I don't think it is the meaning of that. Wallahu a'lam. By this, we come to the last one I'm going to be planning to say. Stop here, inshallah. Give you time for questions. It's better for me now to wake you up. If you have any questions, fadal.
As I said, we should, put something nice on to show the blessing of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. If someone wants to be humble and he tried to put something, like though he has something good, but he tried to put on something that's ordinary.
Right. Somebody who is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala blessed him with, for example, good money, and he is riding a humble car. Yeah? Or, okay. No problem. I'm not saying to go and buy a Porsche or a Lamborghini or a Bentley. I'm not saying that. But I'm just saying it's not good to put a car which is an old banger, that, for example, 1950, not a vintage car, that's an expensive one. I'm talking about like 2000, for example, a car 1990, and it'll go to the garage and people think, what a poor man he is. That's not humbleness. That's stinginess, isn't it? So humbleness, if you want a normal car, but it's a good car, and you've got money, no problem, inshallah. And the person, he doesn't want, for example, to all the time show that his best clothes, but normal clothes, no problem. But to put stingy clothes, it's like that people say, oh, brother, I'll give some money for your sadaqah. What? I'm a millionaire, give me sadaqah. Well, you look really poor. So, no problem, humbleness. Now, look at the Prophet ﷺ. Prophet of Allah, 3 months, yet there is no fire. That means what? No cooking. 3 months. Yet in the hadith he says, يحب الفأل يحب الكلمة الحسنة. He loves optimism. You know what's optimism? Person optimism, that means he's got money and he's optimistic. Prophet of Allah got nothing. No food. 3 months. No cooking. Yet he is optimistic. صلى الله عليه وسلم. نعم. تفضل. ها؟ استأذن. حياك الله، من أين أنت؟ حيا الله. تفهم علي ولا ما تفهم علي؟ إنجليزي. طيب جيد، حياك الله. الله يجزيك الخير. خلاص تكلم إنجليزي. مين أحمد؟ من أحمد؟ السلام عليكم. السلام ورحمة الله وبركاته. Yeah, Ahmed, you asked me a question, I don't understand what you asked me. Can you ask me now?
I have to ask a question for a brother. It's important.
Are you asking on the email, on WhatsApp? I didn't understand what you're asking me.
Okay, it was, I found on the internet that the comparison between the story of Yusuf alayhi salam and Musa alayhi salam, there was lots of comparisons in their story, and I wanted to know if you were aware of any of the scholars of the past of the Salaf.
I don't have time to read these things. I don't really go to images and all. I don't have time. Question and a yes or no I answer, but go on something and read it and too much things. So. Do you have a question now?
A brother wants to know, he's got a 5-year-old and 7-year-old. He's going to take them to Umrah, inshallah. And he wants to know about Ihram. How much does he have to do? Does he have to do everything fully for them?
5 years old, he's able to utter the words. So he will teach them to utter the words. Labbaik Allahumma. They will say it. I mean, they could sing Humpty Dumpty, mashallah, and very perfectly. They can't say Labbaik Allahumma bi Umrah. The amount of, chanting they learn in the school is much more than the Umrah, isn't it? So at 5 years old, he's able to do everything. He will do tawaf on his legs, not on the back of his father. Okay? So what are the other one? 7?
Yeah.
7 is, he's fully aware of the prayer and everything. So he will know, inshallah. بإذن الله. نعم. نعم. تفضل يا أخي.
In my local masjid, I came into the masjid and one brother told me, why don't you give salam to the whole masjid when you come in? He said that there's malaika there. There's malaika in the masjid at the moment. I told him, no, I'm going to go and give salam on the saf when I get to the saf.
You mean when the people pray?
Yes. They're lining up to pray. They haven't prayed.
Okay. Right. So a person is asking you, why don't you give to the people who are praying in the masjid or nowhere? To everybody. Salam.
Yes.
Because there are angels. Well, first of all, angels are not just in the masjid. They're angels outside. So the Prophet ﷺ, he said, if you make salam to a person, and if he did not reply, there's somebody else better had replied. That's not in the masjid, outside. That is, an angel replied upon you. So don't worry. As for coming to the masjid saying salam, tell him, okay, Imagine now the person is reciting the Imam loudly. And you have about 20 people arriving late to the masjid. Now each person came in, Assalamu alaikum. After that, Assalamu alaikum. 20 people, one after the other. Assalamu alaikum. I think the Imam will stop recitation. He will say, brothers, wa alaikum assalam, please, quiet. You ask an Imam, he will tell you. He can't even concentrate on his recitation. What is Assalamu alaikum, ya akhi? So, they've taken a hadith which is in Sunnah Abi Dawood and they have really built upon it mansions and palaces. No, ya akhi. Prophet of Allah, he was praying, somebody passed by him, Assalamu alaikum, he just put his hand in. He didn't say in the masjid, he didn't say, they built upon it really palaces. So we have learned from our scholars that this salam to the person whom you have said salam to him, which is next to you. Prophet of Allah, he passed by him, said Assalamu alaikum. We didn't have any story where the Prophet of Allah lined up a whole companion, somebody said Assalamu alaikum. We have the opposite. Abdullah ibn Abbas, he came with his donkey, and the Prophet of Allah, and he was really young. He said, you could about 10 years old? 10 years old. And Prophet of Allah is praying. He was on his donkey, he parked his donkey, and he was going in between the rows, and he went in the row. He never said Assalamu alaikum. So you got a number of people. Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu, he came late, the Prophet in his ruku'. There is no mentioning of Assalamu alaikum. Okay? So there was no mentioning of that, all of that. So they built mansions and palaces using one hadith. Please, most people don't understand the hadith according to what the scholars have understood it. And that's where the chaos comes from. And I remember I told in this class or other class how the people, for example, this is the hadith, the following hadith. If the person in his prayer and something came to him from the shaitan, so spit onto your left. So this person is spitting on his left, and I've seen him, and I was in the, he was in the third row, second row. I was behind him. I could see him. He's very tall. And he did like this. Wallahi. If I was next to him, I'm going to do to this guy. Spitting on me. Because he doesn't understand. He's just reading a hadith and implementing. And you've heard this before from me, isn't it? That's a problem. So, please understand hadith from the scholars. We have a problem here. How to understand that. Hadith is like this. This is the left. That's my left. Just like this. Right? No khilza. I'll leave shaitan to another person. Another person will spit on another left as well. And the whole row is spitting on each other. So this person doesn't understand the salam. I said to him, imagine 20 people came, or 20, 30 people, 40 people. And the Imam will not be still reading. Salamu alaikum. And that is why one day, there was a Masjid Salafi. MashaAllah, and the Imam, he trained the people to say the salam, but this person is a Sufi, he wanted to take the mic. Imam was not there. He dared himself and he went to lead the prayer. And he's got some supporters in the masjid as well. So, when he went, and this is a true story, happened in masjid which is not far away from where I live. And the people who narrated the stories, the Salafi brothers, mashallah, they told me about it. Soon as they wanted to lead, he started dancing. Wallahi. I said, people, what are you doing? He said, what do you mean, what are we doing? I'm not doing as bad as these Salafis who do. Salaam alaikum. Salaam alaikum. Let me dance. He wants just to prove a point, if you understand me. Salaam alaikum. Salaam alaikum. Salaam alaikum. What's this? It's a dance. Let me dance. He wants to show the people this is not right. Which is, I understand his point. A'udhu billah shaitan. But as I said, the misusage or the misunderstanding of some of the brothers of the hadith, that is brings us into chaos. So it is not saying salam to the whole masjid. So okay, how doesn't he want the reply of the salam? So how is he going to see somebody on the front row is going to say to him, like this? Imagine somebody from the front row. That means I'm acknowledging a salam. It's to be somebody next to you who could see the reply like that. And you have to understand how the reply. So when you are in ruku, how you make the reply? There's no hadith. How are you going to do it? You are in the ruku now. So you're going to do, put your hands like this. If you do like this, you jeopardize your ruku. Because the ruku has to be with your hands like this. So you do like this, you jeopardize your ruku. So what are you going to do? You didn't know that. Hadith doesn't tell you. Scholars will tell you. I'm going to tell you in a minute. He was in the sujood. What is he going to do? Put his hand up as well from the sujood. Or his foot from the back. Imagine. Shaking his head from the back. No, it's all of it to do with scholars. Nod with the head. It's just like nodding with the head. That's it. Alaykum salam. That's it. One. When you're on sujood, just move the head. While you're on the sujood, so your forehead, your nose is on the sajda. So I need to understand from the scholars how to implement these hadiths. Otherwise, there will be chaos. Jazakallah khair for the question. Answer him, inshallah, he will listen to you.
Which one is that hadith that you mentioned?
By the way, I'm stepping on my, that's why I don't want to. Be careful, yes.
Which one is the hadith that these brothers they're implying?
Sunnah Abi Dawud. No, this hadith, no.
A brother sent me a hadith, I want to authenticate it. It is whoever prays 4 units after the Isha prayer, his reward will be like a person who offered them on Laylatul Qadr, narrated by Ibn Abi Shayba.
Okay. It's not authentic, but let me give you a criterion by which you could distinguish the hadith sahih from the hadith sahih. Number one, that if the hadith is not in Sahih Bukhari, not in Sahih Muslim, not in the books which are known, like they call them the Sound Six, which is not a right name, Sahih Sitta, which is, apart from Bukhari and Muslim, which are authentic, there is Tirmidhi and Nasa'i, Ibn Majah and Abu Dawud. Those are the 4 Sunan. Those are major books. Along with them, Muslim Imam Ahmad, Sunan al-Darimi. Okay, even Sunan al-Darimi is actually much stronger than Ibn Majah. Even some of the scholars said Sunan al-Darimi should replace Ibn Majah because Ibn Majah got more unauthentic than al-Darimi. Muslim Imam Ahmad, Muwatta Imam Malik, those are main, but like, for example, Musannaf ibn Abi Shayba, it's a big book and it contains lots of from the athar, from the companions, okay, apart from hadith from the Prophet ﷺ. And if you don't have a scholar to really verify its authenticity, you cannot say it's authentic. That's number one. Number two, if the hadith talks about these numbers of 1,000 and 3,000, 1 million, Laylatul Qadr, you did this, you have to be you have to put question mark. There is authentic, but not that. Like, we don't want to be like the Rafida. You know the Rafida? We who visits the maqam of Al-Hussein on the day of Arafah, he will have, one says, 1,000 hajj. Another person says, 10,000. It should be equivalent to 10,000 times you make an hajj just to visit Al-Hussein. Another one said, no, there is 1 million hajj. Then I said the last one, the last biggest number, 2 million hajj. So if you said there, it's all rubbish. So this hadith, as I said, when it says Laylatul Qadr and all that, you have to be. But at the same time, I can't say it's unauthentic. I have to ask. I'll give you an example. Prophet ﷺ, he said, من غسل يوم الجمعة واغتسل وبكر ابتكر مشى ولم يركب ودنا من الإمام فأنصت ولم يلغ كان له بكل خطوة يخطوها صيام سنة وقيام. Meaning, if a person on the day of Jumu'ah made ightisal and also washed his wife, that means he made intercourse on the Jumu'ah that to force her to make a wash, and he had walked, he did not ride into the Jumu'ah, and he had also came to the masjid and got close, and he had paid attention and did not talk, and also made as early as possible. All of those, if you do it in the Jumu'ah, it's not easy. And for every step that you traverse, you go to the masjid, it will be equivalent to the fasting of the whole year and equivalent to make qiyam for the whole year. Now that hadith, when you hear it, question mark. But you can't say it's unauthentic. It is authentic. When I said it to one of the great scholars, whom he did not know it, he said, this hadith you could smell it's not authentic. I said, Sheikh, you're mistaken. It's a hadith which is Muslim Imam Ahmad, and it's actually Sheikh Al-Albani which is authentic. So, yes, you could smell, but sometimes you smell is wrong. The scholars like Sheikh Al-Albani, who spent his time and all his life sleeping and getting up with the hadith of the Prophet. So he's dreaming with the hadith of the Prophet. He's eating with the hadith of the Prophet. He is living with the Prophet of Allah. You know when you live with the Prophet of Allah, you start to distinguish. Is that word coming from the Prophet of Allah? You become like, call it the sixth sense. It is. You develop a sixth sense. You would not just say it's not authentic, you would say it's impossible. The Prophet of Allah would say the words like that. It does not suit the prophethood words. From those hadith I can remember, which is stuck to my mind, which is the hadith that the Prophet of Allah, which is unauthentic, which is that he had heard people whenever they urinate, okay, they do not, okay, face the Qibla. When they urinate, they do not face the Qibla. So the Prophet of Allah supposedly said, حَوِّلُوا بِمِقْعَدَتِي إِلَى الْقِبْلَةِ. Turn my potty, which I urinate in, towards what? The Qibla. So Shaykh Al-Albani, he will discuss this hadith as follows. In terms of chains of narrators, there's somebody there who's a liar, or somebody who's unauthentic, somebody who's trustworthy, not trustworthy. But on top of that, he says, we know the hadith, which is in Sahih Bukhari, that the Prophet ﷺ, he said, لا تستقبلوا القبلة ولا تستدبروها. When you urinate or defecate, do not face nor turn your back to the Qibla. So the Prophet of Allah commanded this, and it's authentic. And then later on, some people had done that. And then the Prophet of Allah is not just actually telling that these people are wrong, but belittling them, humiliating them. But they are stupid, turn my potty towards the Qibla. He said, on top of it's unauthentic, he says, munkar. What's munkar? It cannot be coming from the words of the Prophet of Allah. Who made him to say that? His lifetime. He spent more than 60 years in the hadith. 60 years in the hadith. 60 with the hadith of the Prophet of Allah. He's living with it night and day, down and day, night and day. Straight away he will tell you, hadith sahih. You ask him something, hadith sahih, da'if, because khalas, he knows. You know when your father comes in the mosque, don't you know, even without speaking a word that he came in, even with his breath, or his cough, true or not, this is what happened to these scholars with the hadith. It becomes like, first word is from the Prophet. It's not. Usually it's the case. Wallahu ta'ala a'lam. Subhanakallah bihamdika ashhadu an la ilaha illa anta astaghfiruka wa atubu ilaik.